Typically and how old is Bentley? Young, we're still...
A little over a year.
Yeah, I was going to say we're under 2. Typically when you get a dog that will show signs of, hey, this is mine, or I'm going to do what I want, and we're growling, and we're not getting off the bed, and we're protective, and so... And so if you get a dog that it seems like everything that's happened so far, so you got a couple bites, and they're not like terribly like ripping you apart, I'm going to kill you. They're kind of like, hey, leave me the heck alone, don't touch this. So under those circumstances, we wouldn't consider that aggression as far as the dog, right? So we're not going to say this dog is aggressive. We are seeing signs of the behavior aggression. Does that make sense? So we're seeing the aggression behavior, but the dog isn't necessarily aggressive. So it's kind of like us getting in a bad mood. That doesn't mean we're a grumpy person or we're bad people. Something happened that made us like that. So the behavior that you're seeing it seems more rare than not, because normally we're like this. And so if we are reacting only over objects and or people, that's kind of the good case of aggression. And I say aggression because really all we mainly deal with here is not aggression really ever. It's all usually just misinterpreted aggression, because it's really easy to say we're aggressive. So no, not really. We're just seeing behaviors of aggression because of certain reasons. So judging by what you're telling me and judging by the incidences that have happened, it seems to me that the respect level isn't there, right? So you can't have this and you go to grab it and you're like, whoa, I'm in charge here. And then we see teeth, we hear a growl, and then potentially, bam. That's so. And then the other thing that I want to point out too, because owning a dog like this, and many people hear the word like alpha and dominance, and it's really none of that. It's really just about having a good relationship with the dog, you being the one that makes the decisions and the rules because you're in charge. And it's much like parenting. I remember back in the day, it was always because I said so. It never made sense to me when I was young. It's like, why can't I stay up past 9? But realistically, it's because I was 10 and I had to wake up at, whatever, go to school. So things like that are really going to come into play as far as behavioral transitions. So with you being the person that's supposed to be in charge, and we have a dog that may be getting away with everything. So we're leaving plates out and you're picking up after them. We are staying up as late as we want. We're drinking soda. We're eating junk food. We're not doing anything that you say. We're staying up as late and all these different things, and you really have no say in that. So if you let the subject, what we'll call this, kind of do whatever they want, then you're going to get those behaviors, right? So we have all these behaviors happening, so reverse back to child psychology, so doing everything that you want to do, and then you say, hey, we have to go to a doctor's appointment. No, I don't want to go. Well, that same behavior is because you never make them do anything. Do you follow? So it's an internal wiring thing. I do what I want. I have no structure. I have no boundaries unless we're training. And so you want to live your life a little bit more structured with the dog on a regular basis. Okay? So what that means is we're not going to let the dog get away with certain things. So the dog is basically free-for-all. So much like a kid, if you have a dog that does a free-for-all or has the opportunity to have a free-for-all, and then you actually try to take that free-for-all away and put some structure and discipline behind it, what do? We get very upset, right? We throw fits, we throw tantrums, we kick, we scream, we cry. Dogs don't do that, typically, unless you're that dog. But typically what they do is they show signs of aggression because they're like, no, this is my human. No touch. Or this is my bone. You can't touch this. And so they don't think twice about being a jerk to you because it's a respect thing, right? Talking back to your elders in general, talking back to your parents, your teachers, it's a respect thing. Whether you agree with them or not, you don't You can't just do that, right? So I think, judging by what you're saying, is that's what's happening. So you don't have the structure, boundaries, discipline in place. That's why you're getting these little acts of basically brattiness. So my game plan is to put together some sort of structure. So we jump, nope, down. We pull on the leash, nope, can't pull on the leash. So basically what you're going to start doing is you're going to start making all of the decisions for the dog. Now, it's not in a case of militant where, like, you have to do everything to my likings. It's only you say, hey, we're going to work, and then you say, hey, you can break and do whatever you want. So you're controlling everything. So it's much like a person with like really, really bad anxiety. You give them a list of do from sunrise to sunset, so they don't worry about anything that they don't have to do, so they stay where they need to be. Structure is what we're talking about. So if we start structuring a dog to do things that we want, your relationship will get better. Does that make sense? So we're going to kind of hit reset. And I want you to start being more structured. So think of it as being a better leader. So turn love down a little bit, turn leadership up some, and then balance them out. Does that make sense? Because ultimately, dogs crave and they need leadership. If they don't, they make bad decisions. That's what makes dogs look bad, is because nobody's actually around telling them, hey, you can't do that, until something happens where you get bit, or the neighbor gets bit, or a friend gets bit. And you're like, whoa, where'd that come from? But when really their whole life they've never been, and I'm saying this because you're thinking, well, I do, he can't jump and he can't do this, but I mean just overall, the whole relationship. So when you're training, you may be very structured, but outside of training in your relationship on a daily operation, maybe not as structured as he needs. So again, going back to the respect thing, if you do training once in the morning, once in the afternoon, once at night, and you say sit, stay, down, and it's not about instilling fear into the dog at all, it's about demanding respect. If you demand respect from a dog or even a child, when you turn around and ask them to do something, they will do it because they respect you. Does that make sense? But if you're a buddy, or, hey, let's go play all day, I love you so much, let's hug, and then you're like, hey, you can't do that, that's bad, they're going to go, screw you. Who are you to tell me that, right? So you have to be that good parent where you can go out, have fun at the skate park and do all of these different things, but then you're like, hey, buddy, you can't kick the principal. And they're like, I know, I'm sorry, I won't do it again, right? You got to have that balance of respect. So that's what you're dealing with here. And so I'm going to start working him a little bit, and then you kind of tell me what you think about, I'm going to just start basically doing some structure with him. Hey, sit, basic stuff. However, he can't do anything without my permission. So if I put him in a sit, he cannot get up until I say, okay, break. If I put him in a, does he know down? If I put him in a down, he can't get up. So I'm going to start controlling the dog's every movement. Naturally, the dog will start going, because they don't have to worry about it. Because if they have no leader, if they have no structure or nobody in charge, they're going to start going, hey, what do I do? Hey, what do I do? Hey, what do I do? And if you're like, hey, this is what you do, then they'll start just becoming more, what should I do? What are we doing, right? So that's what I'm going to start doing. That way, if you need to say, like, hey, you can't growl, like, and if the behavior happens again, fine.
Can I just ask you
Yes.
something? So we were at a horse show, and last year he went to every horse show with us. Everybody loved him. He sat in laps, never an issue. We were at this horse show. This gentleman comes up, which we know, and I'm just so nervous about it because he's getting kind of down in by him, by his face, and
I can tell the way he's acting.
Growling.
His demeanor just changes
Immediately.
So, that's something that's really, really hard for me to even comment on because it could be 100 different things. It's like calling your mechanic and saying, hey, I got this noise in my car. Well,
I've just never been nervous about having a dog with another human ever.
And so here's what you have to start focusing on. I get it. Like, so if your dog bites somebody randomly, you have every right, and your natural instincts are going to kick in because you're going to start getting worried for the sake of the dog and the sake of the people. You can't ever get rid of that. So I would almost like be upset if you were just like, yeah, he's bitten a couple people, but let him go play with a bunch of random kids. You have to start saying like, he's in training,
Yeah, it's kind
whatever.
of what we did that rest of the day.
And that's what you have to do, because what happens is we become too focused on how do we get it out? How do we get it out? How do we get it out? Like, don't worry about getting it out. Worry about making sure nothing ever happens, because that's your job. So if you get a dog that all of a sudden matures and starts becoming kind of a jerk, your dog hasn't changed or become aggressive. Your dog's just becoming who they actually are. Do you know what I mean? So they're not a puppy anymore. That's it. They're not this cute little puppy running around kissing everybody. They're starting to become an adult, and they're starting to mature. So before 2 years old, they start developing things, and all of a sudden they start going, you know what? I really don't like a man in my face. Get out of here, right? And then you say, okay, we don't like that. We're not going to let that happen again because that's your job. Right? It's like having a kid and they have a bad allergic reaction to chicken, and you're like, okay, no more chicken. You can't have that anymore because that's going to make something bad happen. Same thing with dogs. If we don't like somebody for whatever reason, don't focus so much on, how do we get that out? Because you'll spend too much time on that. Worry about, come on, buddy. All right, let's go. There's whatever. You got to, so manage and control the subject you have versus try to eliminate all the bad behavior, because it's going to take you 2 years to do it, and you might never ever get rid of it. Because we as dog owners think that because dogs are a certain part, they're a certain part to us, and we have that, we share that emotion and communication and connection with dogs like any other thing on the planet. So of course we're going to be very upset when something goes wrong, but it's not the end of the world. But I think that's what we think, is all of a sudden, oh my gosh, my dog's aggressive, what's going to happen? Not really. Your dog just doesn't like a strange man in his face too much. And that's fine. And so you just have to start managing things instead. And I deal with a lot of dogs who are just like, yeah, I don't really like dogs in my face, and I'm going to bite you if you do. And so, I don't like people in my face, but, I'm not a bad person because of it. But because dogs can't really come out and say, Mom, this is why I don't like this man. He smells like this and this, that, and the other thing. He's not gonna do that. He's gonna show his teeth, and if you're not there, you're gonna bite, because that's what they do. Like a kid that's crying. If we hand a baby off to another person and they start crying, we're not gonna say, "Oh, you're bad. You're a terrible person. Why did that happen?" We're gonna say, "Well, it's my fault. You don't even know my baby." So just make sure that you're not focusing on how am I going to remove the behavior. Focus on, okay, I know why this is happening, and I'm going to handle it. Then you'll never have to worry about it. It's like a loaded gun. Like, do you know what I mean? You have what you have. You can either be responsible with it and have a loaded gun, or you can say, hey, what's going on, everybody, right? So, but that's your choice. It has nothing to do with the actual subject. It's all dictated off what you do. So with all of that being said, moving forward, you already know like what to watch out for, right? You get that kind of like tense, like the breathing stops, the mouth shuts, kind of like this, snake pythonish like, and that's when you're like, ooh. So don't let that happen. If it's, like I said, play it safe. What's the point of subjecting your dog to a potential bite if you don't have to? If down the road you want to get another dog that's like Mickey Mouse and says hi to everybody, then do it. But it's just not what you have right now. So instead of, making yourself stressed and worrying about it and potentially ruin the day because we get a reaction, just know that my dog doesn't need to say hi to everybody. I can go out to a concert or anything I want with my dog and everything's fine as long as I manage the situation. So you got, hey, can I pet your dog? No, we're in training. You don't have to say that they might bite you. They're mean or nothing like that. You just have to simply say, no, they're in training. You can get a vest. We have little strap-on things that say do not pet. Because if you go out in public and you're, getting
Everybody wants to touch
of course, it's a dog. It's just what they want to do. And he might be okay with 9 out of 10 people.
Right.
But you get that one person, and if you let that happen and you're unsure, shame on you. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I'm really, really big about eliminating stress in your life and eliminating stress in your dog's life, because it's not always rainbows and butterflies, and it's okay if your dog doesn't like everybody. It's nothing you did. It's nothing the dog has become. It's just the dog starting to mature, and that's okay. And you never know. Some person could just be really bad vibes, and they don't like it. So try not to worry about too much of how do we take it out. Just worry about, oh, this is potentially going to be bad, so we're going to go this way. Okay? Bentley, come. And then you guys already know what to look for as far as behaviors go. So just manage it. That's all. You just got to play zookeeper a little bit. Sit. Good. Because honestly, I don't think he'll ever have a problem with me. But again, if I let this dog in here that you say, he's kind of had some issues and then I get bit, shame on me. That's why I always tell people, if your dog has a potential to be upset with something or uncomfortable with me, and I get bit without telling you, maybe subject a muzzle a little bit, it's my fault. Because we already know that could potentially happen, and I put him in that situation. Come on, come. So, pressure release. Bentley, come. Good boy. Well done. Good. Good. Sit. Good, sit. So right there, he's looking for food, right? So he goes, okay, I sat. What are you going to do for me? And I said, nothing. Sit. Good boy. So this is relationship stuff, okay? So he's conditioned, and I can already tell. Sit. Good. I can already tell he's conditioned for what's in it for me. Then you get so picture it this way. I ask you to, I'll tell you in a second. Sit. Good. Sit. Good. So he's not staying in it. So he knows sit, right? You'll say, oh, he knows sit up and down. He only knows sit as if I bribe him. Right? So if I tell him to sit and I want him to stay for 5, he won't. He won't stay for 5 to 10 seconds, which isn't your fault. It's not his fault. But it's kind of like this, that if I said, hey, walk over there and grab the plant, and each time you do it, I'm going to give you $100, and you do it 5 times, you get $500. The 6th time and 7th time you don't get any money, you're going to be like, well, what the hell? And then what are you going to do? You're not going to go over there anymore. Correct? So if you get paid for things that you shouldn't get paid for, if I'm like, hey, can you grab me that real quick, and I give you like 100, it's going to mess up your relationship, right? So you never want to pay a dog to just sit, because they should just sit, and then, because see how he's like, excuse me, I sat, where's my food? Because if he's conditioned like that and we teach him like that, guess what it makes me if I don't give him food? The bad guy. And I'm like, why should I pay you for doing one sit for 2 seconds? Does that make sense? So be careful on how you condition and how long you condition with food, because food should always be kind of like the cherry on top. When you say, Bentley, sit, good boy, that's what they should be looking for. And then the food, once every 5 times, should be the cherry on top. Does that make sense? You want the dog to listen to you, not the food, because you don't want to bribe anything. So with that being said, moving forward, that's one thing you want to do. If he's used to working for food, do it once every 4 or 5 times, because I want him to work with me, right? So again, when you're working with animals and you're working with food, if I'm constantly stuffing food in his face, he doesn't really like me, right? He likes the food. It's like paying 5 of your friends to go on vacation with you. They don't really want to go on vacation with you, but they will for $500 a piece. So it's relationship building. If I say do something, I want them to do it because I said do it, not here's some filet. Does that make sense? That's like relationship 101. So it's kind of like it kind of just makes you look good, because if I got a bunch of yummy stuff here and I'm like, hey, sit, good, of course you're going to sit. But outside of that, in reality, he's not going to sit if I actually need him to. So he's looking at this pillow. So if we're out in public, so say you said, hey, you called your friend, you called your mom or whatever, and said, hey, can you let him out to go to the bathroom? We bring him out, and all of a sudden, we're at a busy area, a lot going on. There's dogs here, there's kids here, and he's going all over the place. And I said, oh God, sit, good. And then all of a sudden he's like, no food? Okay, fine. And then he gets up on cue, and now he's walking around again. So what's the point of teaching him sit if he's only going to do it under the circumstances of him getting paid with high value food? Follow? So the relationship of it is like, hey, you want to come with me and we'll work together? And he's like, nah, not really. You're like, how about it for $100? Sure. Right? So that's your relationship. He loves you, you love him, but you don't have that understanding of like, hey, do this because I said so. So the respect isn't where it needs to be. Does that make sense?